let time go lightly when I'm here with you. I let time go lightly when the day is through. I keep a watch on time when I've got work to do. But I let time go lightly with you. A time for breaking ground and sowing seed, and yet we give up our sunshine.
Another week. We've got a pretty exciting guest this week. We've got Norm Kapson. Norm is only one of 32 voters for the Screen Actors Guild for the Academy Award.
Mm-hmm. That's in Oakland County.
Oakland County.
Yeah.
There's about 4,200 nationwide.
Yeah.
It's pretty small.
I know.
Pretty small group.
I know. But we make a lot of decisions.
Do you see all the films?
No.
How do you vote on something you don't see?
Well, that's why I don't vote.
Okay. Can you vote on something that you have seen?
Yes, I have in the past because some of the people that happen to be in it happen to be people that I know personally, and so I want to give them a plug. But unless I'm familiar with the film, I don't usually vote because I don't think it's fair.
Well, let's go back a little bit and talk a little bit about you. You've been a television sort of star. You've done lots of commercials. You've been in the entertainment field for most of your career.
Yes,
of your life,
yes.
From that standpoint. So one of the things we want to talk a little bit about today is the atmosphere of today's entertainment versus what it might have been when you started.
Well, when I started, I got my first acting award when I was 6 years old. And that's a long time ago. But the biggest change I've seen is in the old days, they used to, you had an agent, well, you still do, but agents in those days were working agents. They knew what you could do. They knew your talents. They knew what your range was. Now you have an agent that doesn't know you from a bag of beans, and it's very difficult to get a job, especially if you live in Michigan. And in the old days, they used to really push certain areas if you were good in that area. And then they brought in acting schools, and some of these acting schools were only in it for the money. And these young kids get so disappointed because they go through these acting schools and they learn all the wrong things. They don't use their natural talents. They're doing what some other jokers tell them that they should do, and it's usually wrong. And so the entertainers are just not the caliber that I was used to. And it's really a shame because there is some really good natural talent out there. In fact, when I go to auditions, sometimes I'm awestruck at some of the talent that's available that nobody knows about because the agents don't know how to promote this. And
well, with an age where communications are so much more improved, is it because the world of theater and movie making and television has gotten larger?
Well, that's probably one of the things, but still they could be using a lot greater talent. I watch TV shows every once in a while, and I'm appalled at the caliber of the idiots that they've got on there. I mean, it's just terrible acting, terrible. And so I end up watching the old movies on the History Channel or something, the arts and entertainment, because I get so tired of watching untalented people on television.
Now, knowing you off camera, I know you're kind of the king of one-liners. You got some good ones, and that's terrific. But one of the things that I do want to ask about is that our language, our treatment of movies, our morality, certainly in some people's minds, in say 50 years that you've been around, has gone south, so to speak.
Terrible. I mean, a large percentage of the comedians today have to use four-letter words, and I for a shock value, and I just do not understand that. I've never had to use that kind of language, and as risque as I may get sometimes with innuendos, I try never to use I can always find a substitute for dirty language.
Time and place.
Yeah, and in fact, I had a woman one day ask me. She yelled at me, "What's your language?" I said, "English. What's yours?"
In your mind, why is Hollywood? Why has language changed so much? Is it just because of the times, or I mean, that's a kind of a general question, but we seem to have gotten filthier.
Yeah, the morality in the America is scary. It's the things I see things on public television, not even special television, that would have been 20 years ago would have shocked everybody. I can remember when I was young, you couldn't use the word damn, and
You could use the word booger.
no, you couldn't use the word hell, and there was, those are not really bad words, but once that started, boy, it just kept progressing, and it's sad.
Well, let me ask you that logical follow-up. If you go back to the Lucy show, it was the old story. You had to have twin beds, and each one had to have a foot on the floor.
Yes.
Did the older times really reflect the true society? Because I've listened to old vaudevillian comedians that were every bit as risque
Yes.
and dirty as some of the guys working today.
Well, yeah, but them days you knew what you were getting into because it was usually called burlesque or something like that, and you expected that, and so you didn't have to go. But today, if you go to a club,
You don't know.
no, you can go there with your wife or your daughter or your great aunt or something, and the next thing you know, you don't know how the heck to get out of there without embarrassing everybody, and it's just terrible. I don't like it at all. I love burlesque. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed burlesque, and I loved vaudeville, and I wish vaudeville would come back. I always wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but being so short, they never knew when I stood up.
We've heard the term craft used when actors are discussing their works. It's a craft you learn, and a lot of programs, James Lipton and in the Actors Studio always talk about a lifelong experience of learning that craft. When do you think you get confident at your craft?
I don't know if I've ever got competent, but yes, comfortable, yes. I've had a lot of encouragement from people that I admired and thought were very talented, and when they would come to me and say you did a great job and mean it, then you feel very comfortable, and you do a variety of things. I went anywhere from a song and dance man to a comedian to straight acting and commercials and all kinds of stuff. And because you get this diversification, you slowly start feeling, I feel comfortable with that. Like being here with you, I'm very comfortable. I can remember there's people that would be scared to death, and doesn't bother me because I figure if they don't like it, they can turn it off. But
explain to me, because when somebody talks about a craft, I know what it's like to understand writing as a craft.
Yes.
I've spent a lot of my life as a writer, but I can remember understanding the English language and studying words and studying those kinds of things. Beginning,
Mhm.
middle, and ends of stories. What does an actor actually study in terms of a craft?
That's a tough question. I don't know what you study. What I studied mostly was the comedians and actors that I admired and watched their timing and their approach to different situations and try to emulate, not impersonate them, but emulate the same type of feelings that they had when they. I know when I was in musical comedy, a lot of the times I would psych myself up for the part. I remember I was playing the part of Kevy in Fiddler on the Roof, which I'd done for 2 different companies, and I had to psych myself into this Jewish type of thinking and the mode and being the father.
Is that
And-
cheap at home? No. I'm sorry.
But I know my wife would came to me and she said, "Now, who the heck are you today?" Because I'd get myself so psyched up. It would take me sometimes 2 or 3 days to get out of that mode and back to being normal.
You do a character then.
Yeah, I'd be a character all that time because I was so psyched up for it and I was ready to go. And it helps a lot doing your part when you're thinking all the time.
Is learning lines and large quantities of lines God-given ability, or is that something you can learn as well?
I think it's something you can learn. I've lost a lot of it. I remember, well, again, Tevye, you had to memorize a whole book. And you've got to get a word. You can't improvise or ad lib because you throw the other actors off. And everybody depends on everybody else. It's a great team effort acting with a group. And I doubt whether I could handle that anymore. You get older, your mental capacity diminishes.
Well, then I guess the follow-up question would be: then you spend a lot of time in comedy and in song and dance. Is that something you can learn, or are you just naturally funny?
Well, looks ain't everything. uh, I guess I've been funny almost all my life. I was always a class clown and that kind of stuff.
Well, as we're talking, one of the differences, if you were a class clown when you were in school, you get the ruler put to your knuckles.
That's right.
Now we encourage the class clown because he turns out to be a multi-million-dollar actor like Chris Rock.
Some make it.
I mean, obviously that's not true in every case. But
no, in fact, it's not true in most cases. I never made any money at it that was amounted to anything, but it was always a fun job. It was fun, and I think once you're in the show business and you're hooked, and I mean hooked. I guess when you hear your first round of applause for something you did, you're hooked, and you're hooked for life. You just want to continue on in showbiz, and it's a fun thing. It ain't for everybody, but for those that it is for, it's a wonderful life.
Well, and it's for as long as there's been Hollywood, which is now going on 100 years.
Yeah.
You've seen all those folks at 16, 17, 18, and leave New York and leave Los Angeles and live in squalor,
yes,
if you will, to become stars.
Yeah, I never had that drive. I was more family oriented, I guess, and I never desired to leave Michigan. And I had thoughts of it going to New York or Chicago or L.A., but nothing serious enough to make me really get up off my duff and do it. And who knows?
Well, as that atmosphere is changing, as we get to do more things, a lot more actors. I think of the guy down in Saline, Jeff. My gosh.
Yeah, I know. I know who you mean.
Lots of folks are moving back to their hometowns and commuting to places. That was not something that was real typical because you used to have to be a studio player.
That's right. You had to be a studio player. But some really make it big time. I worked for me and Tim Allen had the same agent, and we worked together once in a while. But most of the time, when there was one job, and we would be sitting on the agent's desk waiting for it to come in, and maybe a $50 job on the other side of town, and we'd rush for our cars to try to get there first to make $50. And I read in the paper a while back where 1 year he made $70 million, and I can't even talk to him now. And here we were, side by side, coming up, and
is that talent or luck?
I think it's luck because, and the reason I say that is, I guess it's kind of egotistical, but the Detroit News used to have a center section where they would, the magazine like, and one year, I've still got a copy of it, they wanted to see if they could decide who was going to be the next lucky one that's going to make a lot of money in showbiz. So they went to the different agencies and they picked some of their top people. They picked 3 people, me, some other guy, I can't think of his name right now, and Tim Allen. After interviewing us for a lengthy amount of time with the reporters and stuff, they picked me to be the one they were going to show in their center section as the next star. Tim Allen didn't even get mentioned. He made millions of dollars. I'm still scrambling for a $50 job. So I that's why I think some of it's luck.
I want to stop here for a second.
Of course you're going to invest in a 529 college savings plan.
It's federal tax-free.
But you want it managed right.
Not just through up markets, but down markets.
Through potty training?
And swim meets.
And broken curfews.
And strange piercings.
Hey, getting the money ready could be a lot less painful than getting the kids ready.
Make sure your 529 is managed by some of the best in the business. Call 1-800-FIDELITY or ask your advisor for more information.
Tell me about your dream.
I'm falling. There's a cat.
Hello, Maxine.
A talking cat.
What are those?
Infrastructure potions. To grow small, choose the red. To grow big, choose green instead.
Interesting.
So what does it mean?
Well, we all have needs. Yours is flexibility.
But what about the cat?
The cat? I don't know.
Every body has a unique skin type, and Olay Body Wash nourishes yours just right. Introducing the new line of Olay Complete Body Wash. Now with 4 customized versions, Olay gives you smoother, more nourished skin than the leading body wash. In just 7 days. For completely soft, sensational skin, it's the body wash that recognizes that your body is not just any body. The new customized line of Olay Complete Body Wash, also in bar. Love the skin type you're in.
Back talking with Norm Kapson on a wonderful fall day.
Yes,
the weather's
it is.
gorgeous.
Isn't it, though?
We're talking a little bit about the history of theater and your involvement with it and maybe how it's changed a little bit. And we're talking about luck versus money and some of the things that happen. What was your most rewarding role that you can remember playing? Not necessarily based on dollars.
Oh, okay.
Just what did you enjoy? You talked a little bit about Tevye earlier.
I think that was probably one of my most rewarding because I'd done it 2 different times. Pretty hard to decide because different venues give you different pleasures. Some of the great things we did a show for General Motors' 75th anniversary, and I had to play the part of a drunken Irishman, I think it was, singing Irish songs and doing. And there was a young fella here in Ortonville by the name of John Elliott, and he lived out on M15. And he asked me if I could help him get into showbiz. So they were looking for all kinds of people to fill the cast for the show, and I invited him along, and he got a part. In fact, we got to be partners in a couple of things, song and dance things, and then from then on, and whenever a show would come up, I'd call him and tell him, "Come on, audition for this." And he got to play the part of Perchek and Tevye on the Roof, Fiddler on the Roof, and all that. The other day, I'm watching CNBC. Who's the anchor man? John Elliott. and he came right on national television and says he'd like to thank Norm Kapson for introducing him into show business, which to me was wonderful because this is national, and here's some young kid that I helped out, and he was a natural.
But casually, you made an interesting distinction. You're talking about him being a newsman and talking about thanking him being introduced to the show business. It used to be that news was news and show business was show business.
Right.
Now it's all kind of become
a
very blurry line.
Yes, they have to be entertaining more or less. Where before it was straightforward, cut and dry, bingo bango, and now they have to also entertain the audience a little bit to stay popular.
As an old news guy, it makes my heart very heartfelt to see news go in the direction of entertainment. At the same time, entertainment brings something to the table, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I like that too. If you're going to have to watch a show, you should at least be partially entertained, or you're going to lose it. And that was very rewarding for me.
Did you make a living at your craft?
No, I never made a living at it. It was a nice supplemental income, but I had an engineering shop here in town that put the food on the table. So
this is the fun thing to do.
It's a fun thing to do. It's a hobby. It's an avocation. And I hang out at the local pub every once in a while, have a beer or two, and people are always coming in and asking what you do, and I tell them I'm in show business, and they go, "Yeah, Norm, come on, now what do you really do?" And all the regular patrons there thought I was always giving them a line of baloney when I tell them I was in show business. And I happened to walk in about 2 weeks ago, and there's this beautiful blonde sitting at the bar, and the stool next to her happened to be open. And I sit down in it, and she turned and looked at me, and she says, "Oh, my God, it's Norm Kapson." Everybody in the bar, because she's drawing people like a magnet. They're looking at her. "You know him? We were in a lot of shows together." Now, and then they know she's big time because she's the manager of Victoria's Secret and also choreographer for most musicals in Chicago. She said, "Oh, we used to just adore him because when he'd come on stage, we knew we were going to have a good time." And these guys are on stage? Yeah, he's been in show business all his life. And these guys' jaws are dropping because they found out. And it was so rewarding to me that you would remember me. And he was
one of the parts you played in recent time, last couple of years, was actually kind of a remake with, I believe, Ford. With you played a Jackie Gleason style character from what was the movie? Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, Smokey and the Bandit. I played the Jackie Gleason bit
for a commercial.
Yes. It was they were trying to sell Taurus race cars to race car drivers, and it was supposed to be taking place in Georgia. I had that Georgia accent, and the
Georgia accent.
Well, really southern, yeah.
Let's hear a little bit of your southern boy.
No, you don't want to hear that. The cop they put in the car with me was the guy that impersonated
the Barney Fife
character. He was hilarious. Anyway, what the basic was that we were in a squad car pulling over these race cars because they were speeding. Really ridiculous. And all the race cars were being driven at that time by actual Ford Motor Company vice presidents, and they would go on about the car and everything. And it was a really cute bit.
The point I was asking about the part was there's a perfect example of you're talking about Julia Roberts making $20 million for a picture, Tim Allen making $70 million for a year. You don't necessarily have to be nice to make millions, and there's only a few of those folks making that kind of money, but you can still make enough money and enough time to keep your hand in your craft that you enjoy. And not everybody's a millionaire.
No, I just live like one.
Do you think there is more talent when you started than there is now, or do you think it's equal?
I think there's less talent now than when I started. It's just that there's more people involved.
Really?
There's a lot of non-talent, as far as I'm concerned.
Is that because of the amount of opportunities with television stations and those kinds of things?
I think so. I remember I was at one studio, and they had a sign over the door for the personnel. It says, "No talent beyond this point." I said, "Gee, they got a special room just for me."
Well, I went and saw Bruce Springsteen Sunday night, and he's been around for 40 years or 30 years, however long it's been, and he's obviously one of the best musicians that's ever come down the rock and roll pipe.
Mm-hmm.
I go to some other concerts this summer where I've seen name of bands that sound worse than some of the garage bands and some of the bar bands that used to be. It used to be you'd have to spend 10 years playing in bars before you ever got your break.
That's right.
And now 8 of the top grossing acts in rock and roll are over the age of 45.
Mm-hmm.
And not the new bands.
That's right.
And partly because they actually have talent and can play their
instruments.
Yeah. And now you see some of these comedians come and go so quickly. Some of the actors come and go so quickly. The talent always stays around. I mean, there's still talented people today.
Oh yes, there is. In fact, speaking of rock and roll, Sunday I was at the Grosse Pointe Theater to see my daughter star in a musical there called Smokey Joe's Cafe. Fabulous show. If you get a chance, it's going to be playing for the next 3 or 4 weeks. The Grosse Pointe Theater. My daughter's in it. I'm very proud.
Little Mac, am I correct?
No, it's at the War Memorial down in Grosse Pointe.
Okay, right on Jefferson.
He's right on Jefferson. Right on Jefferson. And the talent in that show, and a lot of them had never been on stage before. They just auditioned. Voices were fabulous, and the choreography was fantastic. I don't know if you're familiar with that show. It's not a storyline. There's no plot. It's just one musical number after another. Doing a lot of Elvis Presley type of stuff. And beautiful show, and I'm very proud of my daughter. She did a great job.
What part does she play?
She sings solo, and
Tip off the old block, as it were.
well, cheap. Cheap off the old block. She just came out with a new CD, and she's very talented, but she doesn't think so. You know,
but that would, we could talk 100 years about the insecurity of actors, right?
Yeah, or yes. Most of them are insecure. And
to get up in front of people, to entertain, it's usually hollowed souls who are attracted to your profession. Am I correct?
yes, because you get to be somebody else, and as long as you're somebody else, you can do things. But a lot of actors are introverted people, actually. They're very scared.
You don't seem to be that way. As long as I've known you, you've never seen me introverted.
I don't think I am.
Were you introverted as a young man?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Ham.
Battled a mummy, been frozen solid for centuries, was even beaten up by Elizabeth Hurley as the bedazzling devil.
Sorry, mate.
Now, he's stuck in a cartoon. It's the television premiere of Monkey Bone.
All right!
On the Animation Festival, Friday at 10, only on Bravo.
Hi, Isaac.
Oh, hi. I'm Isaac Mizrahi. Wait till you see these clothes I've designed for Target. Chic, affordable, divine. It's like Fifth Avenue meets Main Street, USA. Classic, fresh, clothes to make women all across America fabulous. It's a big country. You're gonna need some great shoes. I love you in pink. Gorgeous. See how easy it is to look chic? So cute. Those are definitely not your average jeans. Isaac Mizrahi for Target. Luxury for every woman, everywhere.
We've been around this block 3 times. There's no spot.
Volkswagen sponsors a film series that explores the power of the blues this fall on PBS.
Everybody that's in show business is necessarily an introvert or has had problems.
No, that's true. But I meet a lot of them, and but then the ones I enjoy the most are the ones that are not.
Yeah. Well, and I think besides that, you also meet excessive type personalities.
Yes.
People who are out there on the envelope. And maybe that's what it takes to be.
I don't know.
Talented.
Some of them are so egotistical that you can't stand them. And I know I was doing a movie with Jack Nicholson and Danny DeVito, and Jack Nicholson was trying to tell jokes. He was doing it so badly. His timing was terrible and all. But the people were laughing because he's a star, and you got. I think it was.
Here in Detroit,
yeah, right. That was when I did Hoffa. And so I said to Jack, when he said to me, "You're not laughing at these jokes." Well, not only that, I had heard them before, and I heard them done well. And I said, "Jack, get a life." He says, "You're through." I said, "Thank you. I don't need to work with jerks like this." So even when you're down at the bottom, you can still show some pride, The way it goes.
That was a good movie.
It was a good movie. It was okay. I was in that, and I was in with. I do a lot of Danny DeVito stunt driving and stuff, like in Renaissance Man. I did all the.
You did the driving?
I did the driving. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, up and down the expressways, up the bank, and down and around, and running across the Blue Water Bridge in a beat-up old truck. And
I've had a number of brushes with celebrity, and I've sat and talked to John Wayne. I've sat and talked to Bob Hope and a couple others, and it always occurred to me in talking to them how sweet and how wonderful they were. I remember being introduced.
Now
to John.
Danny DeVito is a sweetheart.
I remember being introduced to John Wayne and him saying, "By the way, hello, I'm John Wayne," and I thought, you don't have to tell me who you are.
Yeah, right.
On the planet who doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
But I thought, what a lack of ego in asking me.
Yeah.
And
that's when you see the good actors. They don't have to build up there and be so egotistical that you can't put up with them practically.
I tell the story of John Huston and meeting him, and it was for years, and people in movie theaters and in film schools talked about the ending of Red River and all that it meant. And I actually had John Huston tell me that the only reason it ended the way it was is because they only had X amount of film left. There was a cast party that night, and he wanted to get the heck out of the desert. And he said, I've listened to these film guys tell me for years about what was in my heart and in my head, and he said there was nothing except wanting to get home for the next weekend. He said, so sometimes we build things up that are not necessarily there.
And sometimes things just work out so great that way, too.
Well, when you started, it was legendary in terms of Hollywood, and probably because of communications, but it's not as legendary as it might have been.
No, it's not.
It's a different world now.
Right. And movie stars come and go just like that nowadays. In the old days, you'd be a legend for 20, 30 years in showbiz, and
people were left alone. I know somebody was talking last night on one of the talk shows that they were going with a very famous actress had just met a new guy, and they were going bowling. And as they were driving down the street to go to the bowling alley, there were 14 cars of paparazzi. They just, they couldn't even get into the bowling alley to go bowling because these people were so obnoxious and things. Yeah. And that wasn't true when you started.
No.
I mean, you still get stunts and pictures and other things that they would do, but not like they do now.
No, it's
become a voyeur society.
Yeah, you have a tough time for the stars to lead a regular life, like going bowling. Well, I heard a story the other day about this fella's working real slow at his job, and the boss comes over and says, "You better hurry up here. You're falling way behind." He says, "I'm sorry, but I'm a little stiff from bowling." He says, "I don't care who you are or where you're from. Get busy."
Listen, what I'd like to do is conclude this 30 minutes at the moment, and I'd like to get back 2 more times and have a little more conversations about Hollywood over the next few weeks.
Oh, that'd be fun.
If that'll work with you.
As long as you can find enough stuff to talk about, it's okay with me.
We can certainly do that. It's always fun talking to Mr. Kapson, as you're well aware. We'd like to thank you for your time today.
Hey, thank you.
And
I appreciate it.
Wish you good health and all the good things that come with that. And we'll see you probably in a couple weeks.
I hope so.
Next Tuesday, there once was a guy named Butch whose look was a bit out of touch. The Fab Five swooped in, snip, clip, colored, remodeled him.
Oh my God, separated at birth.
Now the girls go crazy.
She is so into him.
Good poetry doesn't have to rhyme, you guys. Queer Eye for the Straight Guy next Tuesday at
Let time go lightly when I'm here with you. I let time go lightly when the day is through.